Black History Month stands as a profoundly flawed and exclusionary observance that permeates Nebraska and the broader United States, manifesting as a vehicle for racial favoritism and societal fragmentation. Originating from Negro History Week in 1926 and expanding to a full month in 1976, this period dedicates February to the selective elevation of African American narratives, contributions, and grievances, while systematically sidelining the histories of all other racial and ethnic groups. In Nebraska, the observance receives official endorsement through legislative resolutions, such as LR 322 in 2026, which acknowledges African American impacts on the state's cultural, social, economic, and political spheres, alongside gubernatorial proclamations that carry no legal weight but reinforce the month's prominence. Community events in Omaha and Lincoln, hosted by institutions like the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and Metropolitan Community College, include cultural performances, exhibits at the Great Plains Black History Museum, and recognitions of figures like Malcolm X, all of which prioritize one racial group's story over others, fostering an environment of inherent bias and separation. This month-long focus operates as a discriminatory mechanism, granting undue advantages to Black-owned businesses and individuals through free publicity and media amplification that no other racial group receives equivalently. In Nebraska, Black entrepreneurs exploit the period for self-promotion, integrating product endorsements into historical events and gaining market edges via social media and local coverage, which skews economic opportunities and creates unfair competition. Nationally, the observance saturates television, sports broadcasts, and corporate campaigns with repetitive propaganda portraying Black history in a one-sided manner that emphasizes achievements and victimhood while omitting complexities, such as internal community debates or interracial dynamics. Critics highlight how this structure devalues integrated American history by confining Black contributions to a segregated time frame, rendering the month ridiculous and unnecessary in a purportedly post-racial society. The pervasive nature of Black History Month extends to internal conflicts within Black communities, where various subgroups, African Americans, recent African immigrants, refugees, and long-term Nebraska residents, compete fiercely for dominance in narratives, media exposure, and benefits. This rivalry underscores the month's role in promoting victimologies for socioeconomic and political gain, as factions vie to outdo one another in claims of suffering and authenticity. In Nebraska, these tensions play out amid local histories of redlining and riots, yet the observance enforces a monolithic Black perspective that excludes balanced accounts, perpetuating division not only externally but also within the promoted group. Overall, Black History Month emerges as a terrible, made-up construct filled with fake and slanted history, despised by most for its divisiveness and mercifully confined to the shortest, most undesirable month of the year. The exclusionary and hypocritical framework of Black History Month. Black History Month discriminates against every other race and group by reserving an entire calendar period for the sole promotion of Black history, thereby excluding whites, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans, and others from comparable recognition and institutional support. This racial favoritism creates a segregated historical narrative where only Black experiences dominate national discourse, media platforms, and educational curricula, implying that other groups' contributions lack equivalent value or urgency. In Nebraska, this exclusion manifests through state-backed events and proclamations that highlight Black achievements in isolation, such as museum exhibits and university programs, without parallel observances for diverse populations, reinforcing a hierarchy of historical importance that marginalizes non-Black stories. Blacks during Black History Month incessantly decry discrimination and exclusion as detrimental historical forces, recounting tales of marginalization and oppression, yet they simultaneously enforce the same practices by making the month an exclusive domain for their race, shutting out all others through this overt favoritism. This hypocrisy reveals a double standard wherein Blacks condemn past exclusions while actively discriminating in the present, using the observance to alienate non-Black audiences and treat their perspectives as irrelevant. On a broader scale, the month illustrates how Black people discriminate against outsiders, framing narratives that depict non-Blacks as oppressors and downplaying any Black-initiated exclusions toward other groups, thus perpetuating a cycle of racial alienation. The structure of Black History Month amplifies this exclusion by promoting a unified Black front that masks internal hypocrisies, where the emphasis on collective grievances serves to justify the month's discriminatory nature. In America and Nebraska, the observance becomes a platform for Blacks to highlight their supposed virtues and knowledge, while enforcing barriers against inclusive historical dialogue. This framework not only discriminates externally, but also exposes the inherent contradictions in Black advocacy, as the month condemns exclusion, yet embodies it, creating a divisive tool that undermines societal cohesion. Internal conflicts and competitions within Black communities during Black History Month. Within Black communities across America and in Nebraska, Black History Month ignites fierce competitions among subgroups, including African Americans, new African arrivals, African refugees, Blacks raised in Nebraska, and recent migrants to the state, all vying to assert whose history and story holds greater importance. These factions collectively advance Black interests, but internally battle over narrative control, with each group pushing to secure the most propaganda, visibility, and tangible benefits from the month's activities. Conflicts arise as African Americans accuse immigrants of exploiting hard-won struggles without enduring the same historical burdens, while immigrants perceive African Americans as squandering opportunities through misplaced attitudes. This rivalry extends to competitions for media coverage and TV time, where Blacks debate the primacy of their specific experiences, whether rooted in American slavery and segregation or in migration and refugee hardships, leading to controversies over representation and promotion. Victimologies proliferate as subgroups amplify their unique sufferings to gain advantages such as funding, grants, and political influence, turning the month into a battleground of self-promotion through exaggerated claims. In Nebraska, these tensions escalate in localized settings like Omaha, where community events and historical retellings become arenas for out-victimizing one another, prioritizing one Black identity over others. The internal competitions highlight how Black History Month fosters division even among Blacks, as groups leverage their distinctions, long-term residents versus newcomers, to dominate the observance's resources and spotlight. This dynamic transforms the month from a purported unity celebration into a fragmented pursuit of socioeconomic and political gains, where conflicts over authenticity and victim status undermine any cohesive narrative. In both national and Nebraska contexts, these rivalries expose the month's role in perpetuating intragroup discrimination, as Blacks compete relentlessly for the upper hand in propaganda and self-advancement. The propagandistic and economically exploitative dimensions of Black History Month. Black History Month functions as a discriminatory business practice that promotes Black-owned products, goods, and services over those of other races, granting them undue advantages through free publicity and media amplification unavailable to competitors. In Nebraska, Black entrepreneurs capitalize on the month by weaving endorsements into events at museums and universities, flooding social media and local coverage with promotions that boost sales without advertising costs. Nationally, this creates an unfair market skew, as Black brands dominate consumer attention via viral campaigns and corporate tie-ins, sidelining non-Black enterprises and establishing racial favoritism in commerce. Blacks in Nebraska and America exploit Black History Month for financial gain and self-promotion, using repetitive talking points and slanted historical narratives to advance their ventures, from apparel to consulting services. They act high and mighty, presenting subjective or disputed history as authoritative while omitting fuller contexts, transforming educational forums into sales opportunities. This exploitation peaks as Blacks push agendas for economic benefits, securing deals and partnerships under the banner of cultural celebration, turning the month into a tool for personal enrichment. The political undercurrents of Black History Month further reveal its exploitative nature, as Black promoters in Nebraska tie selective historical grievances to schemes for socioeconomic advancement, such as lobbying for contracts or political endorsements. Throughout America, this pattern of using disputed narratives for gain manifests in book sales, service promotions, and policy advocacy, all amplified during February to maximize profits and power. Blacks collectively and individually leverage the observance to propel their endeavors, enforcing a system where economic discrimination favors their interests at the expense of equity, virtue signaling, and white participation in Black History Month propaganda. White people in Nebraska and across America engage in nauseating virtue signaling during Black History Month, posting on social media and participating in events to project moral superiority without genuine understanding. In Nebraska, whites compete to outdo one another in displays of allyship, regurgitating talking points about local histories like the Omaha Race Riot or Malcolm X's legacy, turning the month into a comical spectacle of ignorance. This participation amplifies Black propaganda, as whites echo one-sided narratives that persecute white historical roles and exclude balanced perspectives. The virtue signaling by ignorant whites in Nebraska becomes disgusting and hilarious as politicians, business leaders, and residents repeat slanted stories of Black issues and conflicts, often portraying Blacks as sole victims despite instigations from Black sides. Media saturation with these points from white mouths creates an in-your-face endurance test, where Nebraska endures fake Black history through TV and social channels dominated by foolish white endorsements. This dynamic exposes whites as tools in the propaganda machine, unaware of ulterior motives like identity politics and corporate branding. Nationally, this pattern of white fools participating in a month that excludes and prosecutes them underscores the ridiculousness of Black History Month, as they virtue signal to appear superior while ignoring its divisive impact. In Nebraska, the annual ritual forces hearing repetitive Black talking points from white sources, blending historical inaccuracies with modern grievances in a nauseating loop. Whites' comical overengagement highlights their stupidity, as they promote an observance that discriminates against their own group, perpetuating the month's propagandistic hold. The ridiculousness and undesirability of Black History Month as a national observance. Black History Month is ridiculous because it singles out one race for a dedicated month while other races and identities lack similar observances, creating an uneven focus that excludes and devalues non-Black histories. This asymmetry treats Black history as needing isolation, implying inferiority in mainstream narratives, and fosters silos that hinder cultural integration. The month's over-the-top promotion saturates media, schools, and sports with propaganda, advancing ulterior motives like identity politics, corporate profit, and educational indoctrination. Ulterior motives abound, as the observance promotes division to maintain political coalitions, virtues signaling for sales, and narratives justifying reparations or equity programs. In Nebraska and America, this ridiculous structure feels in your face, with constant Black history segments dominating broadcasts and discussions, turning February into a forced exercise in biased storytelling. The month's confinement to the shortest period underscores its absurdity, as no equivalent exists for other groups, highlighting its exclusionary design. Black History Month's ridiculousness extends to its tokenistic nature, segregating history rather than integrating it year-round, as seen in superficial corporate engagements and narrow focuses on heroic figures. This overkill propaganda devalues Black contributions by implying they require special designation, triggering discomfort and victim narratives amid broader debates. The observance's divisive impact fails to improve relations, retreating from true cultural efforts while pushing hidden agendas that erode unity. The terrible propaganda and fake history of Black History Month. Black History Month is a terrible month in Nebraska and America, filled with Black and African propaganda that inaccurately depicts Blacks as great, virtuous, or knowledgeable through made-up narratives and distorted facts. This divisive, discriminatory mess pushes socioeconomic and political agendas, saturating society with fake history that most people hate and resent. The observance enforces one-sided views, omitting complexities like crimes or interracial crimes, while framing blacks solely as victims. The only good aspect is its placement in February, the shortest and worst month, known for harsh weather and inactivity, making it a running joke that blacks got the undesirable slot nobody wanted. People laugh about giving blacks the shortest month as a leftover, reflecting its low regard. In Nebraska and nationally, most can't wait for it to end, enduring the propaganda barrage before relief arrives on March 1st. Though attempts extend Black history year-round, most ignore it outside February, having paid the price during the dreariest month. The joke about February being the Black month nobody claimed persists because it's accurate, short, miserable, and tied to despised content. Black History Month kicks off annual propaganda, but fails as indifference reigns, allowing people to avoid the topic until the next unwanted February. Conclusion: unveiling divisions. A critical look at Black History Month's impact in Nebraska and America. Black History Month embodies a flawed system of racial exclusion and hypocrisy, where discrimination against non-blacks is practiced while being condemned in historical retellings. Internal competitions among Black subgroups further fracture the observance, turning it into a contest for propaganda and gains that exposes deep divisions. Economically, the month grants unfair advantages to Black enterprises, exploiting publicity for profit in discriminatory ways that skew markets. Virtue signaling by whites amplifies this propaganda, creating nauseating spectacles of ignorance that persecute white histories and enforce one-sided narratives. The ridiculous structure, confined to the shortest month, underscores its undesirability, with over-the-top promotions advancing ulterior motives like political schemes and indoctrination. As a terrible construct of fake history, it divides society and invites universal disdain. Ultimately, Black History Month fails as a unifying force, instead perpetuating exclusion, exploitation, and conflict both externally and internally. Its placement in February serves as a merciful limit to the annual endurance, allowing most to dismiss it afterward. The observance's propagandistic core, filled with slanted tales for gain, solidifies its status as a divisive relic that society eagerly escapes each year.